In this video, we're going to take a look at a blue ink by Sailor in their Kobe line, number 48. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also down in the description is a link to the blue ink playlist, so if you wanted to see more, you could find those there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading in the stub, but not too bad a shading in the extra fine, which is quite a bit lighter than the stub. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and only has a few spots of shading. It actually shows less than the extra fine did. The extra fine took 9 seconds to dry while the medium took 15. The scrubby for both do show a little color variation, and it's there in the writing, and the smear test I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Lamy Safari with a fine nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, but some very minor ghosting. Thin paper and all. No feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, not in any of them. Now the extra fine and the medium are the same tone, which is quite a bit lighter than the stub. The extra fine took 16 seconds to dry while the medium took 22. Scrubby for both, give no color variation, and it's not in the writing, and the smear test you definitely could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we have a very light blue that's moving its way up, but then a line of green that occurs and a much darker blue at the top. Now the one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's put into water. And the most notable thing is that light blue at the bottom is really forming a line and bonding with the paper, suggesting that it might be a resistant part of this ink. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade in the stub, a few spots of shading in the extra fine, a little bit that shows through in the medium. The extra fine's a lot lighter than the stub, while the medium's darker than the extra fine and lighter than the stub. Extra fine took 11 seconds to dry and the medium took 16. Scrubby for both do show some good color variation, which we get, and the smear test I do think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I feel rather safe using it in a note-taking situation. Surprisingly, it really held together. I was sort of expecting it to blow out some. Now, water is reactivating and lifting most of this ink. Not all of this ink, but we're seeing the very beginnings of the white of the paper coming through. Pen flush does everything that water does, nothing more, and it only took water to get it out of the pen. And the 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it. But you're not going to need that. The next writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia paper. As always, this is done just to be able to see tone changes that go on and not so much performance. Now, the interesting thing is this is, I want to call it bluish, but once we put it onto the yellow paper, it's definitely a green. We certainly see quite a bit of tone change that's going on. It's really very amazing, especially look at the smear. That's where you'll see it stand out even more, though it is there, absolutely. This is blue, green. So if you work in that professional environment where you write on yellow paper, you may want to know this. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Sailor Kobe number 48 has a viscosity of 1.62, so this is a wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity and all that's done, then down in the description is a link to that video. The next writing sample is done on life paper. No bleeding, but we do see a little bit of ghosting Not bad at all, not something that makes a problem. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade in the stub, nice shade in the extra fine, decent shade in the medium. The extra fine's a lot lighter than the stub, while the medium's only a hair darker than the extra fine. Extra fine took 9 seconds to dry and the medium took 15. The scrubby for both do show some color variation, and we definitely get it in the writing. And the smear test, you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Sailor Kobe number 48 has an average dry time of 15 seconds, so, like so many others, it's normal. The last writing sample is done on G-Lalo paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading in any of them. Now the extra fine and the medium are the same tone. Looking at the camera at the same time. On camera, the medium looks slightly darker than the medium. Or sorry, the medium looks slightly darker than the extra fine. In person, they're looking the same tone. Both of these are a little lighter than the stub. The extra fine took 6 seconds to dry, while the medium took 9. The scrubby for both said there is a little color variation, but we really didn't see it in the writing. We lost it to the gray tone of the paper. And the smear test, you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Sailor Kobe number 48, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with an orange ink by Krishna, their Palasa. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Sailor Kobe number 48? I always worry about light blues. This made me less concerned. It's easy to read on the page, even with a drier fine. Even though it is a blue, I don't think it would pass in a professional environment. It comes across a bit turquoise. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? While I do think it in general always looks good, I prefer it out of a medium flow, medium nib. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Ackerman's number 20.